Hey, what's going on YouTube? Welcome back to all my cloud scholars out there. Hope you're all enjoying this SC-100 free course. In this video, we are going to go into a new domain that is covered within the SC-100 exam. We are going to be talking about privilege identity management. So what is PIM, Privilege Identity Management? Well, it's a Microsoft Entra feature that helps you manage, monitor, and control privilege access, enforces just-in-time access, reduces standing privileges, and provides access governance and audited. So with PIM, if you were to assign somebody a role, let's say like a global admin or a VM contributor or some type of role, you can do so, but you wouldn't want to have that role active all the time. Because if that identity were to get compromised, then guess what? They would have those privileges. So what PIM is doing is give you time-bound access to roles that you define within your environment. So that kind of leads us to why you want to use PIM. Enforce just-in-time role activation, apply approval workflows for sensitive roles, reduce standing admin access, require MFA on role activation, and view audit trail, and then plus as well, zero trust assume breach. So think of it, if you have a role and you have a user who has access to this role, now if that account gets compromised, then they would have to now go and activate their PIM rights. And if they go ahead and activate it, perhaps somebody might be like, hey, well, why are you activating this role, right? If you have an approval process, and if they get in, let's say 1 o'clock in the morning, that will raise a red flag. So PIM is given some extra guardrails and also applying a zero trust. Even though you are inside our system, we still do not trust you, and every step you take, we are going to have you verify. So how does it work? Users are assigned eligible roles, not active by default. Users request activation when needed. PIM evaluates policies. Does the request require approval? Does the user need to perform MFA? There might be some of the options that you would apply to your PIM role settings. And we'll talk about PIM role settings in a later video. Is the activation time allowed? If approved, user activates role, access granted for a limited time. All activations are audited, and that's very important because of compliance reasons. So there are... Just to kind of go back to the first point, there are eligible roles, and then there are permanently assigned roles as well within PIM. The way I always go about with PIM is I always make sure that those roles are eligible roles, because you want to make sure that they are activating the roles versus having it on permanently. Kind of doesn't make any sense to do that anyway. So let's talk a little about some of the PIM features. So there's role eligibility, which I was talking about just now, just-in-time activation. Then there's MFA on activation. There's an approval workflow. So, you might set up in your system that the manager of said employee has to approve that activation. There's activation duration. So you can now say, okay, with certain roles, you can be activated for 2 hours, some 4, some 6, or whatever the case may be. So it's up to you how you want to apply those settings. Then there's notifications, who gets notified when somebody is approved, when somebody gets activated, and so on and so forth. There's detail auditing. There's also ability to integrate this with conditional access. It supports Azure roles and Entra roles. So there are Azure roles and Entra roles. Entra roles are tenant level roles like global admin and things of that nature. And then there are Azure roles, which are those which are more granular. And let's make sure I have that said right. Azure AD roles are tenant level. So Azure AD roles are tenant level roles, and then there's Azure RBAC roles, which are a little bit different, right? And then there's user assignable roles as well. So example use cases would be something like a global admin requires MFA approval for 1 hour activation. So there you go. So you have different hours of activation you can have for your roles. Then Azure subscription owner role, no standing access, 2 hour activation only. Then there's the help desk admin role, which can be MFA only activation, no approval. So this is say you have your MFA staff, your help desk staff, and they need to get in and do something quickly. You might say, all right, for that role, we are not going to have any type of approval. Security admin, you have the PIM activation and conditional access enforced. Then you also have audit logs reviewed monthly by compliance team, depending on how your organization uses them. All right, so we talked a little bit about Azure PIM. We also want to talk about what are role assignable groups in PIM, because everything we're talking about is from an individual standpoint as of right now. What we're getting into with this one is at a group level. So you might be like, okay, well, what if I have a group of people? Do I have to do all of them at the same time? Yeah, you can do all of them at the same time. Excuse me. What if I have a bunch of individuals? Do I have to go through each one of them? And the way you would do that is with a role assignable group. So those would have to be Azure AD security groups, right? Or Microsoft Entra security groups. So those would be those Entra security groups, or Microsoft 365 groups are the only ones. So if you're looking at an on-premise group, this will not work. It has to be a group within the cloud. So what are the key features? So can be assigned Azure AD directory roles like global admin, user admin. Can also be assigned Azure RBAC roles, such as those roles that have more granular permissions. And then you have memberships can be managed through PIM, supports approval workflows, and groups can be used in conditional access policies and still fully auditable. So I know we have shown this management group slide before. This slide can be used. It's going to be used a lot through this course. So when you're thinking of Azure AD roles, right? So there's Azure AD roles, and think of those roles as tenant level roles or directory roles. So roles like global admin, attribute log administrator, there are certain roles within Azure, right, or Microsoft Entra, I should say, that you cannot provide granular access. Then there are roles that are more Azure RBAC roles, which are at the different levels. So you see on your screen, you have management groups, you have resource groups, you have subscription level as well. Those roles can be applied at the lower level. So there are tenant level roles, the whole tenant, and then there are more granular roles, which are the Azure RBAC roles. So things like a contributor, a VM operator can be provided at a lower scope. So let's say I have a project that we're working on and it's in the MG test management group. I can now use a security group and now apply a role to that security group that they only have the VM operator role at the MG test level or even at that subscription level. That allows you to now have a least privilege within only the confines that those individuals need access. So let's say you have a group of contractors coming into your organization and they have to do some work. And you're like, listen, I have my management group design. I have the work that I want done is only within this management group. Let's say that MG-dev area. You can now say, I am going to give you PIM access, and that access is only going to be at the management group level or even at the subscription level, that sub-dev2, or you could go even further down and then grab a resource group and then give them access at that resource group level, and you could give them permissions, which are time-bound permissions. So how it works, you assign users directly to privileged roles, and then with PIM role assignable groups, users are marked as eligible members of a role assignable group. The group is assigned to the privileged role. User activates group membership just in time to get role access for a limited time, and then after activation expires, they are automatically removed from the group. That's the key thing with PIM. When the activation time is expired, it would automatically remove them. You do not have to go into the system and do anything. So it's less administrative overhead. Okay, so that wraps up this video. We talked about what is PIM. We also talked about PIM assignable groups. In the next video, we're going to go into what are PIM role settings, and then we're going to also look at how to activate roles within PIM. So I know this is a lengthy video, we talked a lot, but when you see it in action, it's going to probably make a little bit more sense if it doesn't so far. So I want to thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions or concerns, please leave it in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you all. Once again, my name is Kieran Tross. My goal here at Cloud Scholars is to get you from scholar to consultant, and of course, consultant to expert. Thank you, and see you next time.